All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Baby oil, candles, a kiddie pool filled with baby oil. We're learning a lot about what was reportedly used in the alleged freak-off parties at the center of the sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs. We're looking at all of the alleged freak-off supplies that we've learned about through testimony in court this week involving Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, better known as Cassie. And what do the dozens of text messages that the defense is having Cassie read in court tell us about how Diddy wants the jury to see his relationship with the singer after her testimony that he allegedly abused her for years? We're on the case, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Let's get right into it. This week, we have heard from the star witness for the prosecution in its trial against Sean Diddy Combs. That star witness, Cassandra Ventura, dated Combs for a decade, and we've learned a ton about their relationship from her perspective. We have also learned a lot about the so-called freak-offs that are at the center of the government's case. And now we're learning about the supplies that were apparently used in the freak-offs. Again, the star witness is Cassandra Ventura. She and Diddy were in a relationship for 10 years.
I mean, honestly, at this point, it's more about the freak-offs and more about the nasty stuff they was doing, she was doing, and what she was doing it with and who she was doing it with, than what it's about breaking the law.
Ended in 2018. Cassie sued Diddy in 2023, and he settled that suit the very next day. That lawsuit was a major spark to the story that has brought us to what's playing out in court right now. This week, we heard Cassie tell her story to the jury. She says that Combs beat her, berated her, and forced her to take part in what has been called freak-offs. They're alleged drug-fueled sex parties involving escorts. Cassie said they were mentally and physically exhausting. She claimed that the freak-offs often left her with sores, UTIs, and needing IVs to recover. The jury has seen pictures of injuries from the relationship, Cassie says, like bloody lips and black eyes that she claims that Diddy gave her when they were together. The jury has also seen a video of Diddy assaulting Cassie in the hallway of an LA hotel in 2016 that was leaked to CNN. That's been seen by billions of people. That video, Cassie testified, shows her trying to escape a freak-off party. Before we get back to what is going on in court, I do want to take a moment to bring you a law and crime legal alert. Did you know that children are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver? An image from the freak-offs, but we don't know what that image really looks like. Our reporter, who has been in the courtroom every day, says it was only an exchange from the transcript. When she was speaking with the prosecution, she said, quote, "Occasionally, I would get sores on my tongue from the freak-offs, the taking drugs, substances, and just friction in my mouth." She says that friction wasn't just from oral sex, but also from having her mouth on things covered with oil and other lubricants. The jury, we know, has seen an image from the freak-offs, but we don't know what that image really looks like. Our reporter, who has been in the courtroom every day, says it was only shown to jurors. It was not shown to those who have been sitting in the gallery. The defense, in its cross-examination, has been having Cassie read dozens of text messages that she and Combs sent to each other during their relationship. Messages like this one, trying to show that she was a willing participant in the freak-offs. Combs asks, quote, "When do you want to freak off, LOL?" And then Cassie replies, "LOL, I am just going up to change and put my ring in. I just picked it up. I'm always ready to freak off, LOL. LOL. The defense is trying to paint Combs and Ventura's relationship as one that was far more loving and consensual than Cassie's testimony presented thus far, and also prove that she wasn't forced to be part of the freak-offs, but she was a willing participant, and beyond that, she often organized them, they say. That she was the one who contacted the escorts often and put these things together. Now, one of the key pieces of evidence that we have heard about from the moment that the federal government announced their case against Sean Combs at the end of 2024 was baby oil. Federal prosecutors say they seized 1,000 bottles of baby oil in their investigation.
Through Rula, it's easier to connect with a therapist who specializes in you.
Cut that out.
Investigation that they say belonged to Sean Combs. Now, when you look at the transcript from the cross-examination of Cassie this week, that baby oil came up a couple of times. In this instance, Cassie said during a freak-off, they would fill an entire baby pool with baby oil. Cassie says that they specifically used Johnson & Johnson brand baby oil that she would get from a drugstore. And in this exchange, the defense attorney says, quote, just to clarify information not in the record, there were no drugs in the baby oil, correct? To which Cassie replies, not the ones, no. Then the attorney says, no, never in your experience, right? To which Cassie says, no. The defense attorney says, quote, if you took drugs, you always took them orally, right? And Cassie says, yeah. And the defense attorney then says, you testified yesterday that you would heat up the baby oil, right? And Cassie says, correct. That's a key exchange, not just because it paints a picture of just how much baby oil it would take to fill up a small pool and that they heated it up for a freak-off, but in October of last year, a civil suit was filed by a victim who went by Jane Doe, who claimed that the baby oil that was found in Combs' house was laced with the date rape drug GHB. Now, Cassie testified yesterday that she has tried different drugs during her relationship with Combs, including GHB. Here's the exchange. The defense says, quote, it was a special time to also experiment with different drugs, right? And Cassie replies, we definitely experimented with different drugs. Yeah. The defense then says, quote, and some took and some didn't, right? Cassie answers, yeah. The defense says, you tried psychedelics, right? Uh-huh. Cassie says, and GHB? Asks the defense, and Cassie says yes, as well as she admits to doing ketamine. So GHB is something that Cassie says she took, but it wasn't, to her knowledge, laced in the baby oil. Another text shows that Cassie would go to drugstores, not just for baby oil, but for candles, saying, quote, I'm going to Duane Reade to grab candles, and I'm going home to pack us a bag. Do you want my...
And these are text messages from Cassie and Diddy that Diddy people pulled up the night before it, stayed up to 3 a.m. I think I got some of this on my other video, talking about day 2.
Reg, clothes, BTW, or just sweats. Then...
No, day 4.
I can go check in and set up the room. I'll eat, take my vitamins, LOL, and get ready before I leave the house. Just want to know what you're thinking. After the testimony Cassie first gave about the alleged abuse she suffered at the hands of Combs during their relationship, you do wonder what these messages, showing that she would be part of setting up the freak-offs, whether they have an impact on the jury's perception of this relationship after what Cassie first told them. The text messages show that Cassie did a fair amount of shopping herself for these freak-offs. The defense presented her text messages of her going to sex stores, like a place called Pleasure Chest, where she said she would get sexual supplies, lubricants, and outfits. And you can also see in this part of the transcript, the defense points out that Combs apparently volunteers to go to a store to buy supplies. And they say, quote, in fact, there were many occasions in which he was picking up supplies for the freak-off, right? And Cassie answers, quote, he picked up supplies. Yeah, that is another defense attempt to make the freak-off seem more consensually planned than what Cassie's testimony suggested in the first days that she was on the stand being questioned by the prosecution. Cassie also apparently went to another adult store, Hustler, and in this exchange she writes, quote, at Hustler, about to check out, trying to find something to...
All right, we back. We back. Let's get it.
To impress you, LOL, you. It's unclear what other video evidence from freak-offs will be submitted at this trial, which is expected to last more than a month and a half. Joining us now to talk more about what's happening in the courtroom is former prosecutor and current criminal defense attorney Safa Robinson-Ferrer. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. So there's all these items that we're hearing about that were used for these so-called freak-offs, the baby oil, the kiddie pool.
Kiddie pool.
Why is it important that the defense bring up that Cassie had these items and that she went and bought these items allegedly when she was, helping put these, according to the defense, put these freak-off parties together?
Important for the defense because what they need to do, or what they're going to try to do, is essentially show that she was a willing and voluntary participant, that these freak offs was just a couple engaging in, sexually risque behavior, not that this was an instance of domestic violence, not that she was being forced to do these things. So the fact that she's
Was
testifying and the defense is cross-examining her, eliciting testimony that she went to the store and purchased these items herself, essentially
yeah.
would negate the prosecution's idea that she was forced to do these
Say it like
things.
that,
And the
woman.
defense is really going to want to highlight that here because, again, their point is, yes, he may have been domestically violent, but he was not holding her against her will. This was not, a sex trafficking case in which she was being forced to participate, that she at her own will was a willing participant to a point. And that's what the defense is really trying to crack at here.
There was also, because on the one hand, you have these instances where she went to like a Duane Reade, which for people not in the Northeast watching this is a New York City drugstore. And then she went to all these other locations, apparently to get certain items or clothing for the freak off parties. But then there was one point where the defense pointed out that Sean Combs apparently had volunteered to go pick up some items for a freak off and had volunteered in the past. Why does that matter?
It matters because it again goes to show that this was likely, and this is not my specific opinion, but that this was likely a couple that was just engaged in a certain sexual lifestyle, that he at times would go to pick these things up, that she at times would go pick these things up. And it's not uncommon for couples or individuals who are engaged in a lifestyle like this to do these things. So again, the defense is really going to want to hone in on that because their point is, yes, our client, he may be a violent individual, but this does not fit under the umbrella of racketeering. It does not fit under the umbrella of sex trafficking. These were willing participants. These were consensually relationships that were consented to between two consenting adults and other consenting adults who may have participated.
And I want to talk about the baby oil part of this because that from when Sean
All they
Combs was
talking about.
arrested
It's
and
the
the federal
freaky
government announced
stuff.
their
The
case, the fact
freaky
that
stuff.
they say he had 1,000 bottles of baby oil, that was kind of a headline
Does he want to
grabbing
get in?
item. And that came up yesterday. Why, in terms of all the items that we're hearing about related to these freak offs, is baby oil important?
The baby oil is important because now we know, as we've been listening to the testimony throughout this trial, is that the baby oil was a very much relevant part of the freak offs, that baby oil was used during these freak offs, that she would lather herself or she would be lathered in baby oil. I would expect or assume that other individuals that were participating also, were using baby oil at the time. So it's very relevant. I don't think it's as relevant as people really want to make it seem.
And on the note of the baby oil, that there was a key part yesterday that got a lot of attention, and that was the moment that the defense pointed out that the baby oil was not laced with any drugs. Cassie confirmed that. I know that there was a civil suit that kind of touched on this, but why was that also notable when talking about this specific item that was apparently used in these freak-off parties?
Why, like I said, I'm like, where does this laced baby oil come from? But why it's important here is because one of the things the prosecution is going to attempt to prove is that he used drugs in order to engage in these freak offs, that he drugged these individuals, including Miss Ventura. And Miss Ventura herself testifying that the baby oil didn't have any drugs in it, that it was just pure baby oil, negates what the prosecution, if the prosecution wanted to make that argument. So what's important here is that, Cassie's testifying, or Miss Ventura's testifying, that there were no drugs in the baby oil. And one of the things that the prosecution could try to say, but we know that they can't really say that now, is that these baby oil bottles were laced with drugs, and that's simply not true according to Miss Ventura's testimony.
The beginning of her testimony, when she was being questioned by the prosecution, we only have the transcript, but it was very raw, very emotional. Elizabeth Milner, who's our reporter who has been in the courtroom, has said that that is definitely how it came across, at least to her. Very authentic testimony. There were pictures that were shown of that Cassie Ventura says is because of Sean Combs, that she had a bloody lip at one, a black eye in the other. How is the defense doing thus far? Because I imagine if you're a juror and you see those images, you're going to remember those images. But then here's the defense saying, well, actually, you were a willing participant in this. You wanted this. How is the defense, in your opinion, from what we know, doing when it comes to trying to present that side to the story?
With regard to the violence and the photos of her injuries, that's really hurtful to the defense here. And I think, a lot of us and most people who would be seeing this, including the video from that LA incident, really could sympathize with Ms. Ventura as a witness. And one of the things the judge will instruct the jury is that you cannot allow sympathy to enter into your deliberations. But the fact of the matter is that we're all human. These jurors are human. They are going to consider those things. And so, very tough for the defense to get over that hurdle. The prosecution, one of the things that they allege in the indictment is that he used threats of force and physical violence, and evidence and photos of Ms. Ventura with these injuries. A jury could determine that this was the level of force that was used, that this satisfies that element of the charge, and go towards a finding of guilty.
Because I also know, and there might be some out there that'll say, well, she was in this relationship for 10 years. And some of these instances happened well before the relationship ended. So why didn't she just leave? And there's also a lot of experts in domestic violence and people who have suffered domestic violence that say it is just not that simple and it's far more complicated than that. If you're on the prosecution, how do you prove that point if you have the defense now saying, look, these texts prove that you actually were not someone who was being held against your will in this relationship. You were a willing participant in this.
What the prosecution's going to do, and what I'm going to do as a prosecutor, and what I expect that the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to do in this case, is call an expert witness on domestic violence syndrome, or on domestic violence and or battered woman syndrome, and explain to the jury and educate the jury on the patterns of domestic violence, why women.
Battered woman syndrome. Battered woman. You hear that? Back a little bit.
I expect that the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to do in this case is call an expert witness on domestic violence syndrome, or on domestic violence and or battered woman syndrome, and explain to the jury and educate the jury on the patterns of domestic violence, why women don't leave, or why individuals do not leave automatically when they are in a violent relationship, particularly when they love a person, they've been with a person for a significant amount of time, and they have business dealings with that person. There is a theory or a pattern of domestic violence, and you have, the honeymoon stage, you have the violent stage, and there's a number of other stages that are associated with it. So I expect that the prosecution is going to put somebody on the stand to educate the jury as to why she may not have left before and why that does
She
not
want
matter.
that money.
I'm sure every jury is different. We don't know what's going on through the minds of the people who are on the jury in this case. But you work in New York. I mean, typically, because I would think that people's understanding of domestic violence might be far better today than it was 20 years ago or even before that. I mean, typically, how educated are viewers on some of the nuances of domestic violence in New York, in your experience?
We're Phoenix Energy, a family-owned oil company focused on unleashing American oil from North Dakota and
Not as educated as you would like them to be. But there are people, and when it comes to the jury, during the voir dire process, the judge and the attorneys have questioned these jurors. I guarantee you they've questioned these jurors with regard to their views on domestic violence, if they themselves have ever been the victims of domestic violence or someone close to them have been victims of domestic violence. And so their experiences are going to come into that courtroom. They're going to go into that jury deliberation room as they sit and discuss the case and determine whether or not Mr. Combs is guilty or innocent. However, publicly and throughout my experience as a former domestic violence prosecutor and now criminal defense attorney, I'm still surprised at how uneducated people can be to domestic violence. And some people will take the position, well, why didn't this person leave before? Not fully understanding the magnitude of what it looks like to be physically abused, financially abused, and things of that nature, having children with an individual and why you may not leave because of that, and other safety reasons. On the other hand, you have a level of where accountability needs to be had for all of our actions and the situations that we may or may not put ourselves in. So it's a double-edged sword, but I'm very surprised that people in today's society don't fully understand the gravity of domestic violence.
Today's
You have in the direct questioning with the direct testimony that Cassie had. Again, it was very emotional, very raw. She broke down at times, according to the transcript and our reporter who witnessed it live. What tone? Because then you have the cross-examination, and I imagine you could be very emotional that someone is questioning what you say you went through. But it seems like from the transcript that there were even like lighthearted moments, just knowing that it says like laughs in her response from what we've seen. I mean, how do you want, if you were on the prosecution team, you would want Cassie's demeanor to be on the stand as she's facing some really tough questions and evidence?
I'd want Cassie to do exactly what she's doing thus far. First of all, Cassie
really?
comes off as a very sympathetic witness. She's heavily pregnant. Jurors are seeing that. There may be some level of sympathy with regard to that. Having or observing this pregnant woman explain some of the most physically violent times of her life and some of the abuse and trauma that she's previously gone through. So jurors will sympathize with that. And that's very, very difficult for the defense to have to get over. The defense, however, they're questioning, they may be pressing her on some questions, but she still appears to be responding to them in a neutral manner. She seems to be giving appropriate responses. I haven't seen anything to indicate that she's been combative with the defense, excuse me. And I don't think there's been any significant back and forth between the defense and Ms. Ventura, which as a prosecutor, I like that because I want her to continue to come off as truthful, honest, neutral, and just tell her story and just tell the truth. So I think she's doing a great job for the prosecution in terms of her demeanor and how she's handling being questioned by the defense.
And it seems like the defense are having her read these text messages, and there's moments that it says that she is, planning a freak off, that she wants to be part of a freak off, and they're trying to show that this relationship was not as, in their opinion, volatile as Cassie's testimony made it seem. If you're a defense attorney, I mean, do you want a gotcha moment during some point of the time that Cassie's on the stand? Like, what's the end goal of this testimony in the grand scheme of the trial?
You always want your gotcha moment. And for the defense here, it's that, Miss Ventura, you were in love with this man. You did anything to be with this man. This is a man who was larger than life at one point in time and still is larger than life to an extent. He had power. He had money. He gave you whatever he wanted. He could have given you the career, or did to an extent give you the career that you wanted. And you participated in this relationship. And in fact, you testified that you wanted to engage in these freak-offs because you didn't want him to do them with anybody else. Again, showing that this was a relationship decision. This was a mutual decision or a voluntary decision that she made to begin this relationship with him, continue this relationship with him, and ultimately it didn't work out. And what I expect the defense is going to somehow try to introduce in a very subtle way.
And I am going to play a summary of what happens, but I'm also going to go over to Myron Gaines because Myron jumped on After Hours last night and he cooked. He gave a whole diagram of the layout of what's happening inside of the courtroom. He said that she said that she had, been involved to some extent, whether it be dancing or intimately with Chris Brown, Michael B. Jordan, all of these different people. He gave a whole breakdown of the whole situation. So we're going to go over to what he posted on his channel. But before we do that, let me give you guys a little bit of insight on what's happening from a summary perspective after they got done wrapping up, and her doing her whole testimony from both the defense and from the prosecutors this past week.
Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight we've got a half-hour special wrapping up the week. 4 days of Combs conviction bravery week. And tonight was the final day on the stand for Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, the star witness in his sex trafficking and racketeering trial, with the defense wrapping up its cross-examination and Combs' lawyers continuing to try to paint Cassie as a willing participant in these so-called freak-offs. The last text they presented from Cassie was this one from 2012 that said, "I don't want to freak off for the last time. I want it to be the first time for the rest of our lives." Here's a statement from Cassie that her lawyer read after court.
This week has been extremely challenging, but also remarkably empowering and healing for me. I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors and can help others who have suffered to speak up
I'm
and
trying
also
not to
heal
laugh,
from
man.
abuse and fear. For me, the more I heal, the more I can remember. And the more I can remember, the more I will never forget.
And even though Cassie's testimony has been the big headline here, there is a lot that paints a huge picture that we're just barely scratching the surface on. Jury was played this recording of Cassie threatening one of the escorts today, who allegedly had video of one of the freak-offs, repeatedly saying that she would kill him if that video got out. That is one piece of evidence. The defense also attempted to break down the credibility of Cassie's rape allegations against Combs.
This woman is a menace, y'all. This woman is a menace. Y'all keep trying to make her out to be this saint. Oh my God. Now, I seen a woman, I did a review video yesterday of a woman that basically said, how do y'all not take these women at face value? If she do something, it's because she's coerced. If something gets done to her, it's because she's the victim. Either way, she's the victim. Either way, she's the victim. The lack of accountability of this woman, and for her to get paid as a result of, bro, women are the only creatures on the face of this earth that can be a part of the freak off, participate in criminal activity that they're accusing somebody else of, become a primary witness, get paid to do it, and then be able to go live happily ever after and have children with the person that they cheated on, that they was with the other person with, and then reverse cheated, and then they went back to the person and got pregnant with them. They're the only creatures on the face of the earth that can pull something like this off.
Hold up. A boy said, live the rest of your life happily, have kids with the person you choose to marry, but cheat on him with the person you accusing of doing this to, but reverse cheat on him with your husband.
The only creatures that can pull off being a victim while threatening to kill somebody that you just sucked off a little bit ago. Damsel in distress. They admitted that she would initiate and would be doing stuff against Diddy as far as like beating him and domestic violence and all of that stuff. And you know what I heard people saying? Well, it's because she was coerced to do it. She was coerced to do it. Look, simp life. Bro, you wrong in ignoring the facts that Diddy is a monster regardless.
Here's how to never have to worry about money after a car accident. Listen, if you have been in a car accident,
regardless. I didn't know that we was talking about Diddy. In the bottom of this video, it says, testimony, is Cassie worse than we thought? I didn't even name Diddy in this part of the show yet. It's plenty of tests. Diddy, listen, we say it all the time. Men are held accountable whether or not they did it or not. They're going to be in jail. They're going to be in prison. They're going to die. They're going to be homeless. Diddy is fighting for his life. He's fighting for his freedom and being charged with something. And I haven't heard any testimony or any evidence that would lead me to believe that he should be convicted for what they're trying to charge him for. They're not charging him for domestic violence. They didn't charge him for hitting somebody up against the head. They're charging this dude. They're hitting this dude with racketeering.
Racketeering, big dog.
I let Myron cook. He cooked for at least an hour, hour and a half yesterday on After Hours at the end of this show. If y'all didn't watch it, go watch it. And Myron said, and I quote, that as of right now, he has not seen them, and he described exactly what racketeering is, what a RICO is, and all of that stuff, that he has not seen them, and Cassie was a star witness, make a strong enough a case to where you can justify the charges that is pending against him. And then he added additional context about what trafficking is and all of that, and so on and so forth. And this is a dude that was a federal agent for over 10 years. So if you're sitting there talking to me and telling me that I'm ignoring the evidence, when my source is a person that has been sitting in the courtroom for every single day during this Diddy trial, and he's a former FBI agent, I'd rather trust him than trusting you when it comes to evaluating the different evidence that's being presented. If they reveal her text messages and she's the one that initiated the majority of these freak offs, if she's the one that had all of the tapes and she was the one that had all of the recordings of the freak offs, then how is it that you can sit here and tell me that I'm ignoring the evidence when the evidence is pointing to her as the real Clyde to his Bonnie, or the Bonnie to his Clyde? Just tell me you a simp. Tell me you're unable to see objectively and that your woman is sitting here watching this show with you and she doesn't like the fact that I'm saying what I'm saying. And so as a result, she's making you type, oh man, you just trying to get some peace in your household. I get it. I get it.
Simp, bro.
I get it.
Yeah, that's sad.
I understand. You trying to make sure that you can get some box tonight because she's able to hold that over your head. She empowers herself by holding sex over you. And so you have to agree with all women and you the simp of the year. And so now you got to appease her in order to be able to watch my show. She don't let you watch my show unless y'all watch it together. I get it. I get it. You can't watch the show by yourself or you got to watch it in secret. I wish people would just be objective. If somebody is guilty of, and two things can be true at the same time. He could be extra freaky, but there is no crime against being extra freaky. It's just the facts. He could be a monster. He could be all of the things that you want to call him. But as far as the charges that he's being charged with, if we're being objective, I don't convict people because I don't like them. I believe that people should be convicted because they're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and there's evidence that was proven to show otherwise. I'm not gonna throw somebody under the jail for the rest of their life because I don't like him, because I don't like his music, because I support Shine. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Here's a little bit of what Myron was talking about. And he dropped this like 5 hours ago, 6 hours ago. He pre-recorded this because he couldn't go live in that particular room. So here's a little bit of what he was talking about on his own plot.
We went over what a freak off is and cross-examination. So the defense is asking Cassie a barrage of questions. And during the cross-examination, there was some explosive stuff that came out. So the first thing we're going to talk about is this guy named Sujit. Now, this guy named Sujit is a dude that Cassie knew who came to her and said, hey, I heard that there's a sex tape out with of you. And when he told her this, she freaked out because in her mind, she's like, oh, like the freak off videos are out there. So she contacts Diddy. He says, don't let him out of your sight. And Cassie starts pressing him. Hey, where's the video? Can I see the video? And this guy, they played the recording in court chat. Now, the government did not play this on direct examination, but the defense did. And when they played it, what basically happened was you can hear Cassie basically yelling at the guy saying, hey, where's the video? And he says, and he's drunk as hell, by the way. They're like in somewhere, she was doing two different events and they were out partying. They were in Atlantic City, then they were going to New York City. And you can tell from his voice and stuff like that, when the slurred speech and the delay in the speaking, that he was a bit drunk. But he said, oh yeah, I had the video. She's like, oh, you got the video? Show me that shit right now. And when he didn't produce the video, she started to get irritated. And she basically yelled at everyone that was around, hey, all of you get the hell out of here right now. And you can kind of hear like people dispersing. And she goes ahead and she says, yo, I'm going to stay here all night until you show me this video. And if you don't, I'm going to fucking kill you. Okay. And I'm going to bury you. And then she said, and when I kill you, it's not going to be me that does. I'm not going to get blood on my hands, but you're going to get taken care of basically. Right.
Oh, innocent little pregnant Cassie. Oh, innocent little woman that wouldn't hurt a fly. She wouldn't hurt a fly, guys. She's just out here just being coerced. She's so controlled. She's out here in these streets and she don't understand what's going on. She's a deer in headlights. She was high the whole time. Let me tell you what my translation of it is. Because the evidence showed that she was in a relationship with Ryan Leslie, who is mysteriously quiet and hasn't said one word, and you haven't heard from him. And he's a Harvard grad, and he's just so focused on his studies and creating good music still. Ryan Leslie ain't dropped the album in years. Ain't dropped a piece of music in years. The evidence and what she revealed in court is that she was talking to Ryan Leslie for 3 years. We don't even know if she was underage when she first got into a relationship with Ryan Leslie.
Had to be.
A little hazy between 17 and 18.
Right.
A little hazy between 17 and 18.
Diddy claim he got a 19.
Then she gets into a relationship. She cheats on Ryan Leslie with Diddy. Then she cheats on Diddy with multiple other guys. And then she gets with her man who was hired to train her. And then she cheats on Diddy with him. And then she cheats on him with Diddy because she's supposed to be in a relationship. And then she admitted to having multiple sexual relations. After she allegedly got raped, she admitted to getting a closure meeting and then they go and busting it down for a real one. She threatening to kill people in real life.
And bury him with no blood on her hands.
Keep trusting them. Let me tell you what I believe.
Learn the hard way.
She was going broke. Because the guy that she's in a relationship with, the one that all of the women keep praising online and saying stuff like, oh my God, he's such a good man. He's a good man, Savannah. He's a good man, Savannah. He's standing by her side. You know what I heard? Myron said that he was watching him while she was testifying about all of the nasty and egregious things, and he was cringing. He was visibly upset and visibly hurt by the things that she was saying.
I believe it.
That's what I heard him tell me, and he was a front witness watching it with his own eyes and taking notes. Lady DC, the sisterhood is going to come through, says, where'd she go? This trial is about Diddy, not Cassie, and he pissed off the wrong person. Now they're going to get Diddy with this. Yes, Diddy is a monster. It's time for him to pay for all that he's done. What all did he do? So you think he should go to jail for the rest of his life because he pissed off the wrong person? Man, I feel sorry for the men in your life. I feel sorry for the men in your life. That's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
That is crazy. Y'all are insane.
You gotta punish that man.
Y'all are insane. You're real life insane. I can't believe it. Yes, I can. I can believe it. I can believe it. I can believe it 100%.
Right? Implying a murder for hire type situation or whatever. And she threatened to kill him like 3 or 4 times throughout the recording guys. So it was crazy because you're able to hear another side of Cassie. And I think the defense played this, to show that Cassie does have a violent side. This was a very violent relationship between the two of them. Diddy did beat her. The defense conceded to that. But what the defense was saying is, hey, this is a domestic violence relationship case. This is not a human trafficking case. This is a case of 2 individuals that were abusing drugs, abusing alcohol, partying all the time, in a dysfunctional relationship, toxic relationship. Jealousy was huge. Both parties had their jealousy motives, whether it was Cassie being jealous of Diddy and Kim Porter getting the wife treatment while she was, being used in these freak-offs, or it was Diddy being jealous of her being with Kid Cudi and, committing arson / blowing up his car. So the defense was arguing more from that perspective versus the government is saying, hey, he was using escorts and affecting interstate commerce by having these escorts sleep with her, and he used his power and his influence and his finances and his position and violence to coerce her into these activities. So that was the first explosive thing.
So and shout out to Myron as usual, but what I'm trying to understand from y'all, and I think that this is really, because to be honest with y'all, I don't think that our lives personally is going to be personally affected by Diddy one way or another. But I'm looking at it from a cultural perspective. Yes, the Diddy trial is entertaining. Men go down all the time for stuff that they probably didn't do, and they get crazy years as a result of it because we need to protect all women. Cool. But here's the thing that I'm wondering. How many guys in society that do not have the resources to be able to bring out all of the details? How many guys in society are actually suffering under duress, in prison, dead, in jail for a woman participating in being with a man, knowing what came with it, but then became a victim afterwards because for some reason he's a monster. We have to hold all men accountable. Then y'all get mad at men and y'all say, oh man, men just hate women. Nah, at some point they have to start overcorrecting because no, y'all, we can't believe y'all no more because y'all all claim victim. Every last one of y'all think that y'all a victim.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of seeing videos on TikTok of y'all saying men are narcissists. Yes, I was with my narcissist boyfriend for 5 years, so he was a narcissist for the first four years and 8 months that you was with him. You just realized that he was a narcissist when you got with him. Let me just say this last statement, then we're gonna move over to another thing. Men, remember this. Remember this. That when she likes you, when she wants you, and when she adores you, right? Because they don't know anything. They're like children in the candy store. They're the smartest women on earth, but they absolutely know nothing about what their situation is when it's happening. When she likes you, when she adores you, and when she's rocking with you, it's being assertive. When it's time to get paid, when she goes broke, or if she doesn't like you, then it's harassment. When she likes you, when she adores you, when she's living a lifestyle, and when she's with it all, freak offs and all, it's being assertive, it's being a man, it's aggression, you're taking it out on me.
Yeah.
You know, I need you. We crazy in love, like Beyonce said, the song Bonnie and Clyde to the end. When you break up, when she goes broke, or if she just doesn't like you when you're trying to approach her, you're harassing her. And it's domestic violence, and it may even become trafficking. Just remember that. Remember that, all right? Just remember that. No accountability is never their fault. The only thing that they did wrong is the same thing that they say on the interviews. Can you name something at your last job that you did wrong that you would do all over? You know what? I cared too much. I was willing to suffer through anything and be his all, and I let him take it out on me.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that y'all say on the interviews at your job.
Same
Hey,
thing
can you tell me
right?
something that you did wrong? You know what? I cared so much that I was just too immersed in it, and I should have removed myself, and I should have been a better leader by holding myself accountable about the things that I was allowing to happen at the job. Wait a minute. So you're saying that you never did anything wrong, and that the only thing that you did wrong was care too much about what was going on that you should have not cared about and just followed the rule. Yes, that's it. That's the only thing that I did wrong. Never anything. The only reason I threatened to kill this man is because this is Cassie. Only reason I threatened to kill this man is because, you know, he said that he had a tape. And I learned it from everybody else. That woman is a monster, family. Listen. I'ma say it for everybody that don't want to say it. She's a monster. She's a monster. And her superpower is her looks, because now y'all give her a bigger pass, and because she's a woman.
Just send me a link if anyone knows where it's at, right? So apparently Diddy went to rehab, and there's a video of him in rehab talking about God and all that type of stuff. AUSA Johnson says it can't be played for her in front of the jury. Estavo says we have headphones. The judge says our jury's ready. Any more issues? Estavo says if the rape is after the charged conduct, it shouldn't have come in. It's a huge issue. Okay? It's a huge issue for us. The judge says it's not a huge issue. You didn't raise it at the time. Combs says we thought we could cross on it. Now that's kind of interesting. So it looks like Diddy's lawyers are coming back in post to say the charged conduct that is alleged in the indictment, the rape happens after that time span that y'all claim that she was trafficked. We don't think that should have been brought up. And I don't think actual sexual assault is there. I think sexual assault is one of the predicate offenses for it's one of the predicate offenses for the RICO Act in Diddy's case, but it's not actually charged. So he's not really charged with rape, right? But is it one of the things that's charged under the RICO? Yes, it is, right? Which I hope you understand that little nuance. If a RICO Act, you could put mad different things, murder, this and third. Again, the predicate offenses doesn't necessarily have to be in a different thing. I hope that made sense, because sometimes I'm talking, I'm like, yeah, I don't even get what I just said. Under RICO, he's charged with RICO sex trafficking. I got to bring up the latest indictment. Let me bring it up, make this a little bit easier for y'all. I'll try to bring up the indictment. Diddy indictment. Here we go.
Academics probably gonna have the best breakdown.
But I don't think this is the latest indictment. Here we go. Hold on. Nah, I'm not even gonna pull it up. It's a waste of time. Anyway.
Okay. Put that up. That's
so it's interesting. It looks like they realized they should have made a fuss about having Cassie testify about this rape, right? They didn't do it, but now they're saying, oh, well, we got to address it in cross, and we need to bring some other things into it because we shouldn't allow y'all to do it. The judge is kind of saying, y'all should have brought this up yesterday or objected to it yesterday. Looked like they didn't. Okay. All right, so the judge says not a huge issue. He didn't raise it at the time, and it says we thought we could do it on cross, and now they're starting. So all rise, good morning. You're still under oath, Ms. Ventura, and it says you believe Mr. Combs. So now this is Estavo, Diddy's lawyer, questioning her. Do you believe Mr. Combs was blackout for the Intercontinental event? Cassie says, I believe he was intoxicated. Everyone's definition is different. Estavo says, but you said blackout. She then says, what do you write here? She says, I wrote, when you get fucked up the wrong way. Did you mean drugs? That's what Estavo asked. She says, and alcohol. Estavo then says, here, Mr. Combs, write to you. I'm so horny for you. AUSA Johnson says, this ain't an evidence. Again, they keep objecting to these exhibits of text messages that basically, I think it's the 400 that were introduced the day before. Estavo says, here Mr. Combs is asking you for sex soon after the Intercontinental, right? You know what I realized? Chat, you know what I realized? We got to take a step back. I'm sorry. We got to take a step back. Because we're missing a huge piece of this. We're missing a huge piece of this. If you're only watching me to cover this, that means we've missed a few things because we didn't cover the afternoon session yesterday.
Yeah.
So if we just start today, we miss half of a day of testimony from Cassie. So we got to get that update and then flush that out, then continue it today. So sorry. Here we go. Yeah, this was the day. Here we go.
Attention, Team Diddy defense. You are losing.
All right, bet. All right, so this is where I missed yesterday, right? So let's start there. So yesterday, they come back at like 2:38. They put Cassie back on the stand, and they're like, yo, listen, your affair, and they're calling it an affair. It's kind of like interesting because Diddy and Cassie were never married. But they're saying your affair with Kid Cudi, which is Mr. Miss Cudi, was only about a month long, but you got a burner phone for it. She said, right. So apparently she had a separate phone just to deal with Kid Cudi. Estavo then says, did Mr. Combs kick you in the back? She says, yes. Estavo then says, this came up later in your relationship that you had cheated on him with Kid Cudi, right? Ventura says he brought it up quite a bit. So it looked like Diddy realized that she fucked Kid Cudi and would probably constantly bring it up, just throwing it in her face like, yo, what the fuck? You fuck Kid Cudi, man. Estavo then says, when he cheated, he said, well, you had an affair with Kid Cudi, right? She said sometimes. So it looks like what would happen is that when Diddy was fucking other women and Cassie would find out, Diddy would just constantly use the fact that she fucked Kid Cudi to kind of like call it even with whatever he was doing by saying, yo, how you getting at me for fucking other bitches? Yo, you fuck Kid Cudi, bro. Stop it, right? Probably one of those type of stuff. Estavo was like, yo, he suspected you of having an affair with another person in the industry. You were in South Africa filming, right? She says, yes, I was filming Honey 3. By the way, it's interesting. Cassie seemed like she's kind of jovial. She's laughing and shit like that. Okay. Estavo says, when you were there, did you see a photo of Mr. Combs and Gina and got irate? She says, yes, I was angry. Estavo says, you blocked him and focused on the movie, right? She says, I tried my best. Estavo says, Mr. Combs suspected you of having a relationship with who? She said, Michael B. Jordan. Now, let me use... Let's look at Honey. Honey 3. It's a movie. I guess this is Cassie, right? Who else is in... Is Michael B. Jordan in the movie? He's not in the movie, right? No, he's not.
I'm gonna make another video and we're gonna pick up
Maybe
right
she
here.
was just in the acting world and Diddy
It's like
thought
an hour long.
she was fucking Michael B. Jordan.